Chapter 9. Every day is just the calm before the storm. After the battle, Sena returned to the GP Academy and things were like when he started. Today, he was training at the package sorting office. I haven't done something like this in a long time. Oh, it seems that this kind of work is unsatisfactory for Sena. Are you upset that there's no opponent to take down? Both are important tasks and to be honest, I'm more relieved that there isn't. Sena smiled and made an error. Oh no, I made a mistake. Sena, who saw that the package was placed in the wrong section, paused the conveyor and tried to move the package to a different route. But the conveyor didn't stop, and the packages flowed in front of Sena. Ah, it's over there. He tried to reach it, but his sleeve got caught on the end of the conveyor. Sena was dragged into a tunnel. Huh, Sena. Why didn't the sensor detect him? Stop the conveyor. Emergency stop. The inspector who noticed the commotion quickly performed an emergency stop and Sena escaped from the situation which had him half lodged in the tunnel. Boy, no matter where you work, your bad luck just doesn't change. Isn't that the truth? Kenneth and Rajo laughed. Ari and Nikita were sitting opposite each other in the GP Academy chairman's office. And what is your request? It's about the Kamadakes treatment. I'll put it straightforwardly, I think that the Kamadakes' place is in the GP army, not the police. After destroying the Big Daruma, the leadership feels it is time to take extreme actions to strengthening our arms. The damage the Lucky ships have caused must also be restored. So where does the army come in? Pirate assassination is essentially our field of work. At this time, I want to knock off the rest of the space pirates entirely, but it's the Galactic Federation's decision. I have no say in it. Even so, we need a watchdog to keep them in line. With the Kamadake, the army will be able to keep them in check. Nevertheless, I don't want to hand it over. Not because of the military's behavior or anything. It's already been decided. Nikita said quietly, but in a firm voice. I see. It's not often that I see you with an injury of this degree. It's usually worse. Sena was in the medical office being treated by a female doctor. Ha ha. I'm used to it. Aren't you the one who took down the Daruma Guild? The female doctor's hand gripped Sena's gently and she pulled her body onto his. Looking closely, her outfit had been left in a revealing state and she had on far more makeup than was standard. He knew that this wasn't up to standard. The girl had a relaxing air like Kariko's, but was an attractive person with a strong atmosphere. Excuse me? Hey Sena, do you dislike older women? I can cure you whenever you get hurt, I can even nurse you back to health. Oh, well thank you very much, and if there's anything else I'll let you know. Hey Sena. He shook himself out of the doctor's grip and jumped out into the corridor. Kenneth and Rajo were watching him with a grin. Nice going, Sena. If you were watching, why didn't you help me, Kenneth? Rajo, you said that you helped me. Sena, you're the star of the GP. The leadership thinks you show promising talent. You're just going to have to learn how to deal with things like this in the future. Oh, yeah. We won't always be there to help. You were there now, weren't you? I don't want to be known for treating women badly. I especially don't want to be on the bad side of that female. She's the one in charge of many things around here. Oh yeah. Don't worry, we can still see if we can have Miranda-senpai help with this. Since their reunion, Kenneth frequently contacted Miranda and Kalichi. It's a blessed friendship. There's no need for that. She'll just tell everyone in the class and that will be even more of a mess. Is that so? You know, we heard you went to a museum with Professor Kariko. I told them I wanted to take you with me, but there were problems with the capacity. Only the Kamadakes crew could come. It won't happen next time. Besides, Kenneth, you were in training and couldn't come anyway. Damn. And we had no luck the entire time we were there. Their peeping efforts were not successful at the branch office orbiting Earth. Oh well, it was okay if you called me, and with Sito there you wouldn't even have been able to enjoy a muum because of her presence. Sena breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone in the class knew that Sito was with him, they just wanted something to be angry about. However, Jaya-kiran was there, and we all know how that probably went. Please keep silent about that, I don't want anyone giving me a hard time over it. Fine. So, the decision has already been made. If it's a command from above, it can't be helped. But I think that the capabilities of the Kamadake alone classifies it as unfit for the decoy division. After all, the Kamedake was made to do battle with space pirates and was unable to cooperate with other decoy units. For that reason alone, it was always deployed independently. However, the captain, Yamada Sena, is still a student, and the Kamedake is still immature. So, isn't education necessary at such an early stage? Most combat experiences are similar to what it would see in the army. It sure is wonderful, right? The power of the Kamedake was amazing. The power it wielded required great personal judgment from its commander. That was why, as long as an organization controlled it, strict observation was important. However, Eri, as a member of the academy, felt a bit dissatisfied with this situation. But the Kamedake's power is dangerous if it's misused or worse, be allowed to go out of control. I'd like to avoid any unnecessary confrontation with you. With respect to the operation of the Kamedake, we're planning to operate it after consultation with you. That's why I came here in advance today. Please do so carefully. Formal notice will arrive from the Galactic Federation tomorrow. At that time, I would appreciate your favor. I understand. He raised a salute to Mikami, who had been holding tea silently for what felt like the whole morning. He didn't even try to salute Eri. Nikita headed for the transfer gate. So, the time has finally come, Mikami said with a sigh after Nikita left. Why? Amain hit the table with great strength. Kariko's group was invited to Eri's private house downstairs from the office room of the chairman's office. This wasn't an official meeting with her as the chief director. Although it was a private area, she still used it when talking about things politically important. Why should I give the Kamedake to the army? The document is formal. We can't refuse them if they issue this. Before Amain's eyes appeared not only the monitor, but also the request, which was printed on paper and signed by hand. Oh! As soon as Amain saw it, she sat down on the sofa. But Mizuki is in the Kamedake. Kariko continued Amain's outrage. We're transferring only the Kamedake. I won't hand over your personally owned royal ship. If that's so, then the Kamedake is owned by Sena. That was transferred from Washu. I'm sorry, but that's not the case. What? Everyone looked at Eri all at once. There are omissions in its initial registration that were made by Jirai. The Kamedake is treated as a renovation of the first Kamedake. That is to say, on paper it's supposed to be a ship made by the GP. Why did they do that? Because of all the troubles that come with admitting how it was made. Ugh. I'll change it then. Kariko regretted her complacency. Then, please proceed to change the name. Even so, it won't be recognized immediately, and it would be difficult to prove that the Kamedake is not a refurbishment of the former spacecraft. If you show the waste records and survey data from the previous aircraft, because it was a ship planned to be Jurai's next main flagship, it was handled in confidentiality, and that information can't be divulged to the military. What about Fuku-chan? She won't accept the authority of anyone other than Sena. Kariko put forward the best reason she had. The military would treat her like a machine part. It most likely wouldn't work any better than before Kariko built the subsystem. Of course, it wouldn't have been an issue if Fuku was mentally mature, but it was cruel to force a young Fuku into such a situation now. It was like trying to put a kindergartner in the military. And if by chance she tried to escape like before, she would be charged with the crime of desertion. It is only the hull that's being handed over to the army. They plan to use the subsystem controls built by Kariko-chan. If they need to, they will convene your team together. Well, maybe that isn't so bad. Kariko was beginning to feel like Eri contacting them over such a non-issue was a sign that something was up. So, is the real reason it's being taken to investigate the Kamedake? Is it not only the army but also the Galactic Federation, GP, and Jurai? Are they responsible too? What do you mean, Kariko? Amain looked at Kariko surprised. Everyone here knows that the Kamedake was created by Washu, but Washisama's survival hasn't been officially released yet, so the Kamedake itself isn't officially known to be made by her. Kariko said as she looked at Eri. Well, since it was originally a privately owned ship, it was unknown where it came from. Eri enjoyed accepting Kariko's question. But after the unbelievable fighting power you showed against the big Daruma, it's only natural others want to examine it regardless of its supposed origin. Its power is comparable to Jurai's royal ships, of course they do. But royal ships are handled with top secrecy by Jurai. But the GP owns the Kamedake. It's natural that they want to investigate the technology. But Kuriko, they could have just done so with it here, so why haven't they? Neju added. That's a good question. Everyone quit making such scary faces. Sito, who had been listening silently till then, breathed a sigh. As Kuriko guessed, the investigation of the Kamedake is their primary objective. What did you expect after it showed such power? If I knew that was going to happen, we'd never have fought it. I'm not surprised. We've received requests to examine the royal trees in the past, but we've denied them every time. Of course, each time Jurai rejected the request in a way that was nearly a threat. The royal trees had free will, so at least in Jurai they had human rights. That's why if royal trees refused to disclose information, it couldn't be forced. They were able to make threats because the trees had such irreconcilable power that it was possible to destroy the Galactic Federation entirely if they did something to bring it to want to enact such violence. Technically, the trees were originally Jurai's indigenous people, not the Juraians. The Academy has problems of its own, Eri said. Washu-san's technology is a ridiculous powder keg. Many people want to know about that technology. They're swarming like piranha, and the investigation requires the formation of teams, and it's a big challenge for anyone to take the initiative. Those with strong sponsors are the easiest to get organized. Well, of course, it'd be a problem if it was led by Senua or any of the other countries. Amain looked at Mikami quickly. Mikami smiled silently and affirmed the opinion. But it's okay to have it lead by the Galactic Federation. That's right, but the leaders of the current Galactic Federation have no idea what's going on, especially not with Washu. Eri diverted her line of sight with a wry smile. Indeed, that's why we don't want them to be the ones conducting the investigation. If it was confirmed to be made by Washu's hands, the retaliation would be horrible. I don't care, I just don't want the military to take it away. The situation is touchy. We can't risk fighting with the military right now. So, you're just going to let Fuku be a political tool? Yes, I'm afraid I have to. Sito remarked coldly. Eri-sama, Fuku-chan is Washa-sama's daughter. Well, you said. How can you let this happen? Are you really just going to stand by and do nothing, Eri-sama? Said Neju as she stood. That's right. Although it was expected, Kuriko was shocked to hear such a blunt answer. How can you say that? As soon as we separate the Mizuki unit from the Kamedake, we will transport it. You have until then to take care of any business you have with it. Eri said to Amain cryptically. I understand. Kuriko glanced at Eri and Sito and left the room. Hey, wait. I'm coming with you. Amain chased after Kuriko. Only Neju remained in the room. I know what being subject to politics is like, but I don't care right now. I'm going to act as an individual. I act as Neju now. Don't you think you should go catch up with Kuriko? Sito turned her head to Neju. Together with Hakuren's team, Kuriko and the others started the removal of the Mizuki unit and the re-registration of the Kamedake in Eri's dock that stored the Kamedake. We've completed the transfer of the Kamedake subspace residential district and warehouse to Mizuki. Let's improve the controls for the subsystem as much as possible before the army arrives. We need to buy a little time. Even if Fuku wasn't a part of it, if they could make it have reasonable performance, then they wouldn't need to borrow Fuku in the future. In any case, the Kamedake wasn't something that could be so easily analyzed. How's the registration change for the Kamedake? Thanks to what Washa taught us, I should be done. Now, the application has been accepted. A sigh of relief leaked out from all of them when they heard Karen's report. How long will it take to get permission to rewrite the registration? The scheduled time is 36 hours. 36 hours? That's a bit long, isn't it? I think it's probably intentional. Kuriko felt a bit daunted. Oh wow, the registration application has passed already. Ho ho ho. Mikami, who was monitoring Kuriko's activity, seemed to be having fun. She looked like a mother watching her children's mischief. Washa-chan sure has a soft spot for Seina. If we certify its use of patents, then they'll have to recognize it as privately owned. For any product, a list of used patents is registered in the tag and embedded. If you checked on what kind of patent was used and who was allowed to use it by checking the access code and disclosure code into that tag, it would be solid evidence that it was the private property of Seina. The patent that was used is used only for the Kamedake, and it only had permission for use by Sena. It will be impossible to deny it. Hehe. If this works, they'll have to take it illegally by force to move forward. Kariko-chan is doing her best, but it still seems like her attempts at resistance will be useless. I wish I could help. But I'm not one for cloak and dagger antics, ahahaho. But you don't mind at all, do you, Sito? Ho ho ho. If it works, you get to claim someone else as the bad guy. Regardless, I'm on the side of Sena and Fuku. Sito said. You look happy. Eri said. Don't act like you aren't also going rouge by telling them, Eri. You're getting better at it, but you need better timing. That's half the battle. Whatever you say, boss. When this is done, let's change the processing order by accessing the office processing computer. You know that's illegal, right? I won't force you. Irma suddenly turned into Ryoko. Did you forget? I'm a space pirate. She smiled and began working on it. Minaho, are you ready? Sito asked. Deployment is completed. We can make our move at any time. If the Kamedake is brought to the coordinates we predicted, then there's no doubt that it's the location of Tarrant's home base. Our primary goal is to rescue Mickey Steinbeck, detain Tarrant, and retrieve the Kamedake. Worst-case scenario, if it's too difficult to retrieve it, its destruction will be permitted. Please do your best. Was it possible to change the hall registration time? Amain asked. No, it was useless. An AI kept preventing it. Kariko looked tired and leaned against the chair. But in 2 days the name change will go through, and they'll have to return it to us. Isn't that enough? I'm not so optimistic. I doubt it will be returned so soon. We might even lose it forever. No way. What gives you that idea? They might act like we voluntarily turned it over to them. In any case, I don't think we'll get it back until they've managed to do some investigation on it. Kariko breathed a small sigh and looked around. Where are Ms. Neju and Fuku? I didn't want to bore them. Sena is back home, so I had them return to my house with Karen. Oh, that's right. I still need to explain this situation to Sena. Kariko-sama, the army is here. The external monitor showed warships jumping out one after another around the dock, and the circumference was surrounded in a few minutes. The GP military will be taking the Kamedake immediately. Please hand it over immediately. An officer displayed documents issued by the Galactic Federation. The Kamedake's crew will be under our supervision until we're done. Stay where you are and don't move. The military stormed into the control room and turned their guns on Kariko. Hey, what are you doing? Don't move. We're authorized to shoot to kill if you resist. The muzzle remained oriented towards Kariko. Isn't this a bit much for taking the Kamedake? You didn't expect us to just stand by while you illegally hacked the registration system, do you? Oh! Kariko was silenced. If you don't resist, then there'll be no need for things to get rough. Neju, who came home to Amain's penthouse, embraced Fuku and went out to the terrace. The sea breeze was comfortable, and it was very relaxing. She yawned. I hope Big Brother comes back soon. Mia? Fuku turned to face the garden and noticed a carrot rolling there. Mia. She jumped out of Neju's arms and ran after the carrot. Stop. Fuku. Neju immediately felt something was unnatural. She stopped Fuku, but the next moment, the area about a meter past Fuku was enveloped in a time-freezing barrier. I sense evil. She felt the air pressure change and felt a light shock as something pressed up against her neck and threw herself forward. She felt like she had just avoided an attack meant to make her faint, but couldn't look back to confirm it. But that small action resulted in a big advantage as things started to happen. Neju-sama. Karen immediately felt a strange feeling. She sensed the enemies lurking around her in camouflage and attacked without hesitation. Gah! This forced them out of hiding. Freeze! Karen, who confirmed that the muzzle of the gun of the now camouflage-free enemy was directed at Neju, quickly stopped her resistance, and she received a blow from an enemy in the back of the head and fell where she stood. Check if Sena Yamada is here, seal the entrance and all exits. You bitch. You killed him. That was in reference to the man who was attacked by Karen earlier, who pointed a muzzle at Karen. Don't act against a subordinate of the Devil Princess if you can't stand to face retaliation. The man who was standing up quickly raised the muzzle of his gun from her. The retaliation of a subordinate of the Devil Princess was a kind of urban legend. Fear of terrorism and illegal activities and retaliatory warfare created such a legend. There was no limit to the number of organizations that have been annihilated by Sito's information network, which was said to be the best at gathering intelligence, and their fighting power was legendary too. They showed no mercy when it came to illegal trickery. So, in response to people who carried out illegal activities, they were known to be harbingers of death. Ding dong. At that time, the chime indicating Sena was coming home came from the entrance. The men immediately took Fuku and started withdrawing. Shortly before that, Sena was on the elevator heading for a mains home with NB. Wow, that must have been a dangerous job. You have lots of bruises. But the courier business is fun because there's no one to fight. I was able to make it through a long training session and have plenty of stories to tell. Well, that sure sounds like fun, Master. Oh. When the elevator passed a certain point, NB went silent. What's wrong? Something has happened. I sense a wireless blockade. NB said. Sena readied for the worst. Master, is anyone waiting for you upstairs? Neji-chan should be up there. I understand, but for now we shouldn't go rushing in to save them. NB said with a serious tone. Sena gave up on persuading it. For now, he could ensure his safety, but for Neju it might already be too late. Of course, he could have been wrong about that, but there was no way for him to know. I understand. Sena had no intention of launching an assault. He could sense something wrong in the atmosphere. He activated a special guardian system which he had been given. It wasn't suitable for combat, but it was perfect for protecting himself. He got out of the elevator while examining the situation. He cautiously approached the entrance. It seems like all the alarm systems have been taken over. A dummy signal is being sent to the outside and Master's communication system is obstructed. NB attached a terminal to the wall. He began looking at the state of the inside. NB detected the sound as Karen was knocked down. Oh! Sena felt something. He pressed the intercom switch. Bing bong. It seems that they've started withdrawing. Let's go. Sena went inside. As he opened the front door and slid in. When he felt that there was no dangerous atmosphere and checked for signs of intruders inside, he came running to check on the girls. Neju, Karen. Sena saw Karen collapsed beside Neju. She was bleeding. I'm okay, I'm just stunned. Fuku-chan needs your help. A slight fluctuation blur appeared in the sky where Neju pointed. It was a flying ship disappearing in camouflage. Even with his bio-enhanced vision, it was totally undetectable unless he looked carefully. Perhaps Neju wouldn't have noticed it unless she had been taught to. Please help Karen. You don't have much time, Master. Sena started running like a rabbit. He and NB jumped into the small ship that Kariko borrowed from Mary, which was on the way up the stairs. Although the Kamedake had already been taken by the military, Kariko's detention continued. Moreover, each girl was isolated in a separate room individually under the supervision of the military. Karen. No, she hasn't returned to consciousness yet. Kariko, whose normal communication was blocked, was conducting secret communication with Hakurin and the others. Although there was some interference, it wasn't enough to inconvenience her hearing. Kariko-sama, Sito is trying to get in touch with you. Apparently, there is a privacy block on the communication network. A mains house has no abnormal readings coming from it, but I think that a communications block and camouflage are probably being done on it. I can't get in touch with the entrance staff of the apartment. They were completely isolated. How about you? If we were alone, it would be possible to escape from here, but the enemies are surrounding us, we can't do anything. And if I resist, who knows what will happen with the main and Ryoko. I need to find out what's going on, and I can't move until I know how Neju and Karen are doing. There's something behind this other than a survey of the Kamedake. It was a divide and conquer situation. The information that was blocked was being monitored by Sito. But no gaps in the communication block were found at all, so it wasn't possible to do anything for Kariko. There's no choice but to have this situation play out for a while. Sita-sama. I have word from the staff at the entrance to a mains apartment. It seems that Fuku has been taken away in an attack by the military. An emergency communication came from Minaho which boiled Kariko's blood. This is Nikita. It's done. This situation was also a bit unexpected for Sito. I'm sorry. It seems that a military spy had gotten a job at the entrance of a main's apartment. They said that the majority of their facilities were disabled. Nikita, you don't have to work so hard at pretending like you didn't know right now. Have you recovered Fuku-chan yet? After all, she didn't want to put Fuku in danger or to upset Sena. Not that it matters. No matter what happens, I'll just be seen as a crusty old hag. In other words, she knew she would suffer hardships from this operation. Still, failure on that matter is unacceptable. Okay, well, what's wrong? A small ship just left from a main's apartment. Sena is on it. Ms. Neju and Karen have confirmed it. He's going after Fuku. Sena, you don't have to work so hard right now. Sito was shocked. A call came in. The communication was instantaneous, but the color of Sito's face changed. What's that about Fuku-chan? On Senoa's main planet, Washu was standing surrounded by huge snow mist trees. As the petals danced and scattered, a monument of black crystal about 2 meters tall was floating in front of her eyes. In it, Mikumo's body was sealed, but the insides couldn't be seen. I see. That sounds a bit inconvenient, Neja. In terms of technology, Tarrant poses a considerable threat to the Academy, so I didn't think it will end up anywhere but in the hands of another philosopher. I think we both know who the most likely candidate they would get to handle it is, and I'm sorry. It seems that is so be wary. The Daruma Guild's extinction was so sudden that nobody noticed him disappearing in post-processing. Or maybe it was because of Sena's probability bias. Well, I have Ryoki with me to hold the fort down here, so don't worry about me. But I couldn't bear it if something were to happen to Fuku, said Washu. I'll make sure she is saved. See ya. Sito ended communications. Washu took a deep breath. Anyway, it's Dr. Clay. It's not a bad idea to bring another philosopher in to examine her. Oh, were you busy? A voice called from behind her. Washu slowly turned around. There was a young man with the nurse that was in love with Mikumo. Aren't you supposed to be somewhere else? Washu's voice contained a mild anger, and it was directed to the young man. A few minutes after following the small ship carrying Fuku, the ship that Sena took came into satellite orbit of the Academy's main planet. Master, you shouldn't jump after them. Why? Because of orders from the GP. You'd be disrupting a military exercise. We have to stop them. They kidnapped Fuku and hit Karen. No matter how unjustifiable, orders are orders. Their orders are pointless. Sena replied immediately. Well, you might get fired from the GP or be arrested if you take actions against that ship. What? There's no use thinking about that. If I stop tracking them now, I might never see Fuku again. For a moment, Sena wore an expression of anguish, but after a bit he decided to ignore NB's warning. If you understand the risks and want to go after her, I can take the brunt of the blame and shield you from the worst of it. What? What are you talking about? You're my NB, I'll still be held responsible. NB began to change in front of Sena's eyes and turned into Kirchi. NB. That body is. He couldn't recall anything about meeting Kirchi and spending time with her in his dreams, but Kenneth was an enthusiastic fan of hers. So, he knew her as an idol. However, if a missing celebrity suddenly appeared in front of your very eyes, you might doubt their authenticity. Well, are you going to go after her? The aura of the woman in front of his eyes was enough to convince him that she was real, and he was embarrassed by her undressed appearance. I'll explain afterward. We have to chase them now. Oh, that's right. But they did a short distance jump. I can't predict where they went. I can only guess. If you couldn't predict the jump destination, you needed to detect where the opponent jumped out at and then jump to it. Of course, that distance could be too great. It would be over if it required a long-distance jump. Can we attack? Only to stop the target, but that is a far more serious crime than an order violation. We don't want to risk killing someone or worse, the possibility of hurting Fuku. How can we go up against a ship like that? It's okay, Sena. This ship is Arisama's. It's the ship of a philosopher. Kirchi smiled nicely like she read Sena's thoughts. The ship has jumped out. We identified the position. Time to jump. Ares' small ship immediately identified the enemy's position and shifted to super spatial navigation. Oh, this is the top secret superspace. Sena recognized it, and as soon as he did, they jumped back out to normal space. The target ship was still in front of them. Without hesitation, Kerchi shot at the power generators of the target ship. Great aim. Her aim was comparable to Amane's. They hit it with a tractor beam and the target ship was immobilized. Sena Yamada, your actions are a serious violation of orders. Finally, the other party opened the communication line with voice only. I would like you to return Fuku immediately. This is the decision of the Galactic Federation. Return Fuku. The delivery should have only been the whole of the Kamedake, and I can't help but ask you what kind of legitimacy there is in the act of attacking civilians and depriving them of their property. We demand you transfer her back to the GP. Is there an order to withdraw? This is an emergency measure. Fuku has human rights. She is a presence with an astral. The protection of her rights takes precedence. You'll regret this. The other party's words proved illegal intent. However, something's jumping out. Kerchi shouted. A large-scale army ship jumped out at a close distance, which caused intense shaking. Sena quickly cut the tractor beam. Avoid them. Oh! Kerchi backed off. A moment later, a beam of high power passed through where Sena's ship would have gone if they hadn't stopped. Damn it. Fuku and the evidence to prove the illegality of her capture were on that ship, and they were getting away. Without it, all Sena had was evidence of himself violating orders. However, the large ship looked like it could easily take out the one Sena was on. Sena, wait a minute. Kerchi did something that made the ship quickly approach the small ship and bypass the large ship. The inertial control couldn't catch up. Intense G-force attacked their bodies. Despite its size, the small ship approached while emitting a beam with a fairly powerful output, but as expected it was impossible for them to penetrate the armor or shields of the heavy armored warships. Individual bullets launched from the small ship and split into hair like pinpoints of energy shield, and together they managed to weaken the shields enough to barely pass through. It made a bright red spot on the outer armor of the enemy battleship. The enemy ship quickly became transparent and invisible. They're withdrawing. Emergency jump. The small ship jumped out to a point several light years away from the warship after only a few seconds using a super spatial jump. Kerchi, those bullets were they? Yes, those obnoxious ones that hit the Kamedake 1. How do you know about those? Because I've seen everything as NB, Kerchi smiled at him. Oh, I see. That makes sense. Acting as NB, she would have seen everything going on aboard the Kamedake. It was no wonder that Kerchi had so much skill in ship-to-ship combat. But such a large ship, are the paint bullets going to be effective? I mainly hit them with it for the marker function, so that way we can follow where they go. Does that mean? Can we still follow that ship? Yes, it's impossible to follow them with no long-distance hyperspace navigation drive, but once they get where they're going we can make a series of normal long-distance jumps. We should have about a week of supplies on board, but if you are concerned about safety, we can go back to Amane's and consult with Kariko. I don't think we can. Something is obviously wrong. I have a bad feeling about going back. How about notifying the people of the Earth about Fuku-chan? There's nothing preventing it. Washisama, Tenchi-san, and Ryoki-chan would make for powerful backup. If these actions are the will of the Galactic Federation, as you've said, there's the danger of putting Tenchi-senpai in a bad position in the current situation without clear evidence. So first of all, I'm going to see where the other party goes. Okay, then please know I'm here to serve you. I know, but, well. Oh! Hi. Kerchi returned to her NB form. So, what will we do if we go on a long trip without alternating personnel? Or do we go back and get the others? We have to decide quickly. I know. Let's just go. We have to help Fuku. Sena said without hesitation. Even with the stigma of rebellion on him, he had more to regret if he lost Fuku. Miki disappeared out of reach, but Fuku was right in front of him. It was still possible to reach for her. We've received data from the marker. We've set a course to jump. Alright then, let's jump. Okay. After a moment, Seina's small ships jumped after its goal.